Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of That Sounds Fun. I'm your host, Annie F. Downs. I'm so happy to be here with you today. Today, we get to continue our special series called Build Your Board, a That Sounds Fun podcast series in which we want to help you find the voices you need to live the life you want. Because in a world of influencers, you get to decide who is influencing you. 2 weeks into the series, it is so fun to hear the processing y'all are doing, the decisions you're making, the way the guidebook is walking with you. I mean, it's awesome. We're so glad you are enjoying this series. In case you've missed it, we do have that guidebook for this series. So you have a place to take your notes and work through the question, who is the next voice you need to help you build the life that you want? Just go to anniefdowns.com/buildyourboard to download your copy of the guidebook today. And make sure you jump back and listen to the other episodes of this series that have already released. And before we dive into today's conversation, I want to tell you about one of our incredible sponsors. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. You guys loved our episode with Melanie Rogers recently, me too, where we talked all about counseling and why it's so helpful. If adding one more appointment to your plate sounds daunting, though, it doesn't have to be, because BetterHelp allows you to do your session right from home or in a quiet corner in your office or in a hotel room when you're traveling. There is no need to figure out factoring in commute time for any of that. When you're in a season where it feels like your mind is racing all the time or you're needing to process some big things, therapy is such a helpful tool, and a therapist may be the next person you need to add to your board. I'm a huge fan of therapy, and it has been a game changer for me. So if you want to give therapy a try, consider BetterHelp. They make it so simple to get started. You just fill out a brief questionnaire. We love a quiz, and they match you with a licensed therapist. Finding a therapist that is right fit for you is so important, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So you're sure to be working with someone who is a good match. And the fact that it's all online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and fit in your schedule is amazing. Be a good friend to yourself and your brain with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/thatsoundsfun today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/thatsoundsfun. Today on the show, we continue our Build Your Board series, and we actually continue the conversation we started last Thursday with my mentor, Nancy. And today we talk with my friends, Becca and Harley. You know, you heard Nancy, who disciples me. And so today you're going to get to hear from Becca, who I disciple and meet with, and Harley, who Becca disciples. It's like this little family line of discipleship. And here's why I wanted to do this. So many of you guys talk to me about wanting these kinds of relationships in your life, but aren't sure where to start or what to do. It feels awkward and complicated. I get it. So we thought it'd be fun to bring in both Becca and Harley so we can talk about what discipleship practically looks like for all of us. And let's be clear too, I know y'all love the idea of finding someone to disciple and mentor you so that you have the help you need. But today we're also talking about who you are then going to turn around and disciple. Whose board are you on? As followers of Jesus, we all have a calling to go and make disciples. So we're going to break down what that looks like for me, Becca and Harley. And we are just one example, of course, but I think you're really going to love what they both have to share. If you're following along with us in your Build Your Board guidebook, you're going to be taking notes for this one on page 9. So here is my Build Your Board conversation with Becca and Harley. Becca and Harley, welcome to That Sounds Fun.
Hi.
Hello.
I mean, both of you are like podcasters, so this is so casual for you.
We're like the behind the scenes gals.
That's true.
We've made a couple appearances.
We have.
Yeah, for sure. You both have. I've heard you both.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's
Not
really
quite
our
as often.
thing.
Yeah.
Will y'all talk a little bit real quick? Will you say your name attached to your voice so that people listening can hear, and then say what you do? What is your job? So, Bugs, you want to go? Oh, we should also say you're Becca and you're Bugs.
Yes.
Sorry.
You can call me either one. Hey, I'm Becca, and I serve as the content director at Crosspoint. So I basically help to write and produce discipleship content for our church.
It's amazing.
Thank
you. Have you stepping into that role, watching, I mean, I get to brag on you publicly in front of the whole world, but watching your transformation at Crosspoint over the last 18, did you come in 18?
5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're in this role where you are giving us what we hold in our hands for discipleship is just so awesome.
It's crazy.
You're great at it.
Thank you.
You're amazing at it. And so I feel like we are hitting our stride in a lot of ways because of the work you and your team are doing. So you're amazing. Okay, Harley, you're amazing too. What do you do?
Yes. Hey, hello. I'm Harley, and I get the honor of actually working alongside Becca on the content team as well. We're a team of 3. We're a trio, and I get to partner and kind of coordinate and do a lot of. We really work so side by side. We work so relationally together that it's like we don't do completely separate things. Like we partner together in kind of everything we do. But building, like we really focus on what happens like Sunday to Sunday, not just what happens on a Sunday, but what are you doing like Monday to the next Sunday when it comes to discipleship and content and formation in the digital space. That's what we really get to lean into and work on.
Harley, I don't know this. How did you get to Crosspoint?
It's a great story.
I was working in college ministry, so worked at Wesley for a year after college. And the year was coming to a close.
Go Dogs, by the way. Wesley at the University of Georgia.
Well, I was at Georgia College.
I knew this. This explains so much to me.
Yes, with
because
Tate.
Yes, thank you. So not Go Dogs. You
Not
were
Go
at
Dogs.
the Wesley Foundation
Yes.
at Georgia College.
Yes.
I said your name at UJ, and I was like, y'all, she was part of Wesley. And they were like, no. I was like, I think she worked here. You worked at Georgia College.
Yes.
It's amazing. It's very confusing.
She
I
also
understand.
does not like Georgia.
I know. It's a hot
So-
take.
What?
I know.
Well, why?
But
Wait, what?
I know.
We got to disciple that out of her.
I
boys.
know.
believe
It's
me,
amazing.
I'm
we're
working on it.
Yeah.
We love her
Go
anyways.
Braves. Like we can.
Okay.
We have that in common.
Sure.
Huge
Yeah.
Braves fan.
Okay, so you were at Georgia College.
Yeah, so I was at Georgia College, and
under one of my dear friends, an
Yes.
amazing pastor, Tate Welling.
I love Tate.
Yeah.
Would follow that guy anywhere.
Yeah.
So,
Apparently not, because you're here. But I respect the idea of it.
And the
I
Holy
respect
Spirit
idea of it.
first.
Yeah.
So I was working for in college ministry. Was coming to the end of my year commitment, and really was asking God, what's next? What, like, I think there's more. I think I could stay here at Wesley at doing what I'm doing. I have dreams of how we can do things better, like just dreams for what could be, but was also like, what is there? Was asking for open doors opportunities. And so a friend of mine sent me the residency application at Crosspoint. And so on a whim, I was like, all right, I guess I'll apply.
Did you want to come to Nashville? Did you know
No.
Becca or me or any? No.
I like, obviously, like from Tate, from people, like I was like, oh yeah, Annie, like I'd heard Kevin's name, but like not a super big following, just knew. So Nashville was like not the dream, not the goal. It was really like, God, what's next? And so I was about to leave to go on a trip. It was like spring break week. So I was about to leave and go on a trip, and it was like, she sent me this application, and this was like the humor of God at the time. I'm such like, I cannot make decisions. So I was like, I don't know. So it was like I had a week to apply before the applications closed. And I was like, you got to be kidding. So I think I applied at 10 p.m. the night they closed. Like that's just,
my gosh.
Yeah. So I apply, and I'm like, I say now, I'm like, I would be embarrassed to probably read my application because I'm like, I have no idea if it was good. I have no idea what I said, but applied, shut my computer. I was like, Lord, open or close the door. No idea. I go on my trip to Yosemite, to Napa Valley. Like I'm living my life. And I get an email from Crosspoint, from my residency director at the time, wanting to set up an interview. And I was like, oh, I kind of thought I forgot I applied. So long story short, in a lot of detail, kind of came down to the option of you can stay here at Wesley and it'll be comfortable, it'll be good. There's nothing bad making you leave. You can say yes to this, or you can say, you ask for opportunities and I open this door, you can say yes. And kind of through a lot of detail and like things that I felt the Spirit leading that was leading me here to Nashville. So that's ultimately how I got here. It was a really tough transition to leave like people that I had done so much life with and had been rooted with. But I really felt like God was asking me to step into obedience and come and just say yes to that. So that's how I got here.
How many years have you been here now?
I'm going on, this past July was 2 years.
Yeah.
So I got here and God just hasn't let me leave yet. So
We're so glad.
I know.
Yeah.
I tried to go. I really did.
Right.
I tried to leave. But yeah, there's just something that like God is doing at Crosspoint and even in Nashville. And I don't think that I've been like released from that yet. I still keep asking him. Like, I think there's things I have been praying for when I got here that are coming into fruition as the days go on.
Wow.
So it's really encouraging that I just get to be a part of it.
In your personal life or in work or both?
In both. A lot of it in work, though, of like a lot of things. Actually, our boss, this is like such a foundational, at my first year
this
here.
could be a Josh Reed fan pod
Yeah.
so
Oh, for
quick.
sure. So quickly.
So easy to do.
He's changed our life. I can't
He's changed
lie
my
to you.
life. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a gift from God.
Yeah.
And so, like wrapping up my first year here, there was like a lot of wrestle of like, am I going back home? Am I committing to stay here? I had some really good friends planning a church back home. And at the time I was like, do I need to go and go there and reach my family? There's a lot.
Where's home? What part of Georgia?
The middle of Georgia, Gray, Georgia.
Have we not talked about this? You know, my family is all Gray, Georgia.
You're kidding. No.
Okay, we'll do this off. I mean, my whole family is in Gray, Georgia. Wheeler
You're
Nursery.
Kidding. Yes.
That's our whole
right.
family.
You're kidding.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I grew up playing at that nursery
I feel
every
so
Christmas.
seen.
I know.
Yes.
I know that road. I know that life.
So from Gray.
Where'd you go to high school?
Well, Jones County. There's only one.
Yes, you did. Yes, you, well,
Yeah.
unless you went to private
Unless you
school.
went to private school in
Unless you
Macon.
went to Stratford.
No.
Okay.
Yes. So was wrestling like, what do I do? You know, I love being here. I don't really know what's next, all these things. But Josh had asked, he was like, I think you can think of it this way of, do you feel like in the life that you lived, like from your small town, from college, all this life, do you think there was something like God gave you that you've been sent here to like give away in spaces? Or do you think like you spent a year here, is there something that you've gathered as you've spent this year here working that you've gathered up that now you get to go back home and give away? And so I think it can be true in different, like the answer can be different in different seasons. But for me, it was like, I really think there's like something that I've carried from a lot of life lived that I get to give away here.
Yeah.
And so it's like personal, but it flows into work and the call beyond like our job descriptions here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Will you say how old you are?
25.
Okay. And Boogs, will you say how old you are?
30.
Yeah. And I'm 43. I think that's important. I think
Yeah.
as people who are listening have already heard me intro this, they already understand our triangulation of relationship.
Right.
But I think that's an interesting part is looking at the ages. Because I think a lot of times when people are trying to figure out who could I invest in,
Yeah.
this is such a textbook example, the two of you.
Yeah.
And even you and I, Boogs, is a
Right.
pretty textbook example of like, well, we shared some DNA.
Yeah.
I'm a season ahead.
Right.
And we're serving in the same community and therefore.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
something we both wanted. And that is actually true of y'all too.
Right.
And so
Right.
I think talking about ages and where we came from matter. Books, how did
Yeah.
you and Lad end up here at Crosspoint?
Oh my gosh. You want the long version or the short version? So we were on staff at the UGA Wesley Foundation and had every intention of staying, actually really wanted to be. So you intern for 3 years and then you can be invited to stay as a director. And so we were like, we are sold.
Had you done your 3?
Yeah, we had
wow.
done 3 years. We were ready to commit our lives to staying there, and that door just shut. So we were like, okay, what's next? So Lad,
I'm so glad it did.
I know, it's
oh my gosh,
honestly
Becca.
insane. Yeah, it explains so much of my attitude when I first moved to Nashville. I came here kicking and screaming, but yeah, so Lad applied for the student pastor position at one of our locations and actually was told, hey, we found somebody else, so thanks anyway. So I ended up accepting a job in Atlanta. And Lad then was like looking for jobs. That pastor reached back out to him and was like, it didn't work out with the person we thought we were hiring. Would you like to put your name back in the interview process? So we talked about it, and I'm a loyal person, so I really struggled to be like, I just accepted this job. I cannot now consider moving to Nashville. But all of his other doors were closing, and so we were like, whatever. Like, if God's opening this door, let's do it. Anyway, so bunch of like prophetic words, just like a lot of clarity from the Lord. We both got invited, Lad got invited to come up and interview. One of our mentors from Athens was in a room with 2 of our former pastors at Crosspoint, and they were like, we heard that you, like, Lad wrote you down as like a reference, and so tell us about him, tell us about his wife, whatever. So he tells him about Lad, then he's like, yeah, and his wife did social media, advertising major at UGA, whatever. And they were like, you know that we have a social media position open at Crosspoint, right? And he was like, I did know that, but she's not going to apply to it. She has a job. So they were very, very gracious. They invited me to interview. God's hand was all over it. I did not deserve that. And then we got hired on the same day.
Yeah.
So we packed our bags and moved to Nashville.
Yeah, you did. I remember our mutual friend in Athens calling me and being like, 2 of the most important people in our lives are working at your church. And I was like, can't wait. It's going to be great. I couldn't have dreamed this up. I didn't imagine we would be what we are.
I still,
friends,
do you remember the day that we met? I was like, like
No.
the first day on the job, you don't have anything to do and it's the worst.
Yes.
So you're just sitting there while everybody else has to do their job.
Yes.
And I was just sitting at the computer and you walked in and you were like, "Are you Becca?" And I was like,
I said it like that?
"Yeah, no, not like that."
Are you Becca?
Well, I think you were like trying to be discreet and I was like,
Oh.
"Yeah."
Because
And
my
then-
office was at your office. We shared
Yes,
an office at the
you were
time.
like right next to
Yeah.
us. Yeah. And you were like, "Clay told me about you. We should hang out." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, a familiar face, please."
Yeah. The thing I remember more is when we sat at Disney. When we were on the
Yes.
Disney trip and everybody was eating or something, we were at picnic table. I remember
Yes.
you came and sat at a picnic table with
Yep.
me and you were like, "I am really struggling."
Yes.
And I said, "Okay, let's go.
talk.
Yeah,
Yep.
let's go." I'm so glad both of y'all are serving our church. That whole team is, I feel emotional about it. Your team is doing what our church wants to do. And so as one of the teaching pastors, I think, man, all we do when we I only have 35 minutes with them. Y'all have 7 days with them and minus my 35. And so it just means so much to me, the work y'all are doing. Sorry. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, just pass those over.
Yeah, really.
That sounds fun.
Hey friends, just interrupting this conversation to share about one of our amazing partners, Amra Colostrum. I'm telling you, when our first shipment came to the office, my coworkers were lining up to be the first to try it because we had heard so many good things. Have y'all heard about Amra Colostrum? This new superfood seems almost too good to be true, but this team is a fan. It's just one scoop or packet that you add to cold water or cold food. We've tried the unflavored option, which works great, and the blood orange flavor too, which adds a fruity citrus taste. Colostrum is the first nutrition we receive in life, and it contains all of the essential nutrients our bodies need in order to thrive. So Armor Colostrum is a proprietary concentrate of bovine colostrum that helps strengthen immunity, ignite metabolism, and anti-inflammation, fortify gut health, activate hair growth and skin radiance, improves fitness performance and recovery, and has some powerful anti-aging benefits. I mean, I am here for all of that. It is wholly natural, sustainable, and was developed with the highest integrity from start to finish. Armra has thousands upon thousands of 5-star reviews and literally life-changing testimonials from users, and our office is thrilled about it too. So we worked out a special offer for our friends. You get 15% off your first order. Just go to tryarmra.com/thatsoundsfun or enter that sounds fun to get 15% off your first order. That's tryarmra.com/thatsoundsfun. And one more amazing partner to tell you about, Nutrafol. Okay, do you ever wish you had thicker hair or less shedding? There's so many root causes for hair thinning, and Nutrafol addresses those through a whole body approach to hair health. Thinning is absolutely normal, and that is why I love Nutrafol. They help women address it from within their science-backed supplements. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve visible thickness and strength. So get this, in a clinical study, 86% of women reported improved hair growth after taking Nutrafol's women's hair growth supplement for 6 months. No matter if you're going through postpartum or menopause or you're in a stressful season that causes hair loss, Nutrafol has 4 unique formulas to support women and is physician formulated using drug-free, science-backed ingredients so you get the most reliable results. Just go to Nutrafol.com to take their health, hair, wellness quiz, which we love a quiz, and identify the causes of your thinning hair. And Nutrafol will give you a personalized plan for better hair growth through their whole body health approach. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our friends $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code ThatSoundsFun. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, it's spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code ThatSoundsFun. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code ThatSoundsFun. Okay, now back to our Build Your Board conversation with Becca and Harley.
That sounds fun.
Okay, so we are talking about discipleship. So, Bugs, will you start us out? Everyone had just heard Nancy last week kind of talk about my and her relationship. Can you define discipleship for us?
You realize that's a massive question
Yeah.
that the Big C Church in America is trying to answer.
Yes. Well, how do you define it? What do you define as a discipleship relationship? Because you have it with both of us.
Yeah.
I hope. I mean, you're better with Harley than I am.
No, that's not true. I mean, I think at its most basic level, being a disciple to Jesus is following him and obeying his commands. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's where if I try to overcomplicate it, then like that's where I just it gets too complicated.
Yeah.
And so when I think of like a discipleship relationship, it's like a Paul and Timothy. Like, I'm following you, who's following Nancy,
Yeah.
and like we're all collectively following Jesus.
Yeah.
But it's like you're the person in front of me that's tangible, that I can see how you're following Jesus in 2023 and walk with you in that and
Yeah.
receive I think of it as like wells. Like, you have dug wells spiritually that now I get to drink from. And hopefully, I hope that Harley's getting to
Yes.
drink from wells that I've dug. And so I
Yes.
think of that's how I imagine discipleship.
Yeah. That's a great definition, by the way. Thank you for doing that. I think an interesting thing for our friends listening is you moved here in 2018. We started meeting pretty quick and doing, you and I. Harley's only been here 2 years. But I remember the day you said, I think I want to see if Harley wants to meet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know this story? Have you heard her tell this, Harley?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Probably not.
Did you, when you moved here, Harley, did you think I need to find someone to disciple me?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I think coming from a Wesley background, discipleship was ingrained in our culture at Wesley.
right.
It was just, it was what you did.
Yes.
It was a part of the program. It was a part of the structure. And that's not to say it was done perfectly, but it was modeled. And I think growing up before college, I'd had people walk alongside me. And at the time, I probably didn't define it as discipleship, but it's what it was. They like showed me how to love Jesus and how to walk with him and how to follow the Spirit. And so then in Wesley, that was the structure. And so I knew it had changed my life. And I got here. And before I even got here, the summer before I moved, it was like there were some specific prayers I prayed as I was coming, like friends matter, community matters. Like, I know no one as I moved to this city, all of these things. And I knew I would want someone to walk with me as I got here. So there was prayers before I got here, and then even when I got here, that I was praying of, Lord, I want that relationship. I need to be led, someone to pour into me, to give away what they've been given. And so I think that I saw the effects of how it changed my life as I walked in relationship and lived an integrated life alongside people, that it wasn't something that I was willing to go without when I got here.
Were you hawk-eyed? Were you like, her?
No.
I don't think
Wait,
so.
okay, so you said y'all met at Disney, like on a retreat. We met on our staff retreat.
In Dollywood.
Last year? Oh, Dollywood, 2 years ago. I was like,
2 years
Lord,
ago.
last year. The Dollywood
The
one the year
Dollywood
before.
retreat.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So the whole church staff, for our friends listening, the whole
Yeah.
church staff goes on a retreat once a year for
Yeah.
2 days, not even 48 hours,
Yes.
hardly.
And we were at Dollywood, and I got
Gosh, we're just like a stack of amusement park disciples.
I know. Look at us.
I know. Well, I got done riding rides. I was like, all right, I have a headache. I'm over this. And so I like paired up with not a random group, but like
We're just walking.
I'd been on staff for 2 months maybe.
Yeah.
So I really didn't know anyone. Still getting to know people. And so we connected, and I think someone had mentioned you to me of like, you're from Georgia. Like, it was that same, like, we have some DNA that's similar.
Yeah.
And so I think as we were walking, we just started talking and like connecting and just kind of like, we're like, hey, like, got to be friends. And then when we got back from retreat, maybe a few weeks later, I was also in this place at work of trying to figure out even what the heck I was going to do in my residency.
Yeah.
It was not solidified. And so I think I reached out to Becca to connect of, hey, can I just like get to, like, I came here knowing like my heart cares so deeply about discipleship and formation. I have no idea what that looks like outside of the context I've seen it in. I have no idea what that looks like at Crosspoint or what their team does, but I knew that they were about it. Like, they cared about it the way I did. And so I was like, can we just connect and like talk about what you do? And we did, but it went so much more than just work.
Yeah.
And I think in that moment I got to express that I'd been praying for. I like didn't go into this like, I think it's gonna be Becca, but in that we were at Radish Kitchen, like a holy place here.
Yeah, it is.
And
Why do you think we go to Radish
We
all
also
the time?
Radish. We also Radish.
See, we know good things.
Lord
Yeah, we
knows.
do.
And I think
Lucky Radish. They're getting a lot of Holy Spirit
getting
conversations
good
going on
stuff.
in their restaurant.
yes. And so I think in that moment I had expressed to Becca, I was like, yeah, I would love to. I'm praying into this, like asking. And I think after that you had reached back out, and it was like, everything just kind of fell into place and like came to fruition of getting connected. But no, I was not like, oh, it's Becca. And I think I was like really aware of that because I was like, I don't want to pinpoint something and like, what if they actually don't live a life that I would trust in following? Or what if they...
Oh, that's interesting, Harley. So you kind of watched people's lives for a minute?
Well, yeah, I'm like, or it's like, oh, from the outside, they might look like I don't know. It's like, one, it was prayer. It was asking God for wisdom and discernment.
Yeah.
And my biggest prayer was like, Lord, would you just authentically make a connection?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I need to ask in boldness, like, hey, will you disciple me? Or I don't know what it will look like. I'm willing. But I was like, I want it to be genuine and not just someone that I think is following you the way I want, like desire, but someone that like they are praying for the same thing I'm praying for. And that's what it ended up being, was that we were both asking at the same time and God made the connection.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so Becca, when she comes up to you, I was there, I remember, of what was stirring in you. What was stirring in you that made you go, I think I'm wanting to, ready, I think it's the right time? Was it because you'd had one kid and you were, was it your life place or was it your workplace that made you, even before Harley was in your vision, that made you go, okay, I'm ready to start meeting with somebody too?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you.
I think, so before I moved to Nashville, Wesley in general, really adamant about discipleship. So I'd been meeting regularly with girls the whole time I was there. And
Leading them, discipling them.
Yes, and being discipled myself.
Yes.
And so moving here, I really got my entire world flipped upside down. So I think it took me a second to like get my footing again. And I was in a place where I was like not loving like the physical work that I was doing every day, but I was like, God, what do I have to give? Like there was like this, I was doing ministry in air quotes from a computer screen. And I was like, this is just not, I don't know if this is it. And I knew that like I wanted to disciple someone eventually, but it was kind of just like the Holy Spirit being like, I think now's the time. Like you just need to ask me who it is. And so you and I had been talking about it. And then when Harley and I met, it was like, it was like an elevator, like lighting up, like every button. Because I think it was just like, she carried the same heartbeat that I did. She loves Jesus so much. Yeah. And like, it was really refreshing to be around her. And I think she had a humility and like what seemed like a teachable heart. And so it's like, what else could you ask for in someone, you know? And so I think knowing that we shared that DNA, it really felt like I didn't have to explain anything to her. I think that's one of the hardest part with discipleship relationships is like, whether you're the one asking to be discipled or offering to disciple someone, it's like, if someone doesn't have context for it, you're like,
so here's what it's going to look like.
So you think that you're just so great that you want to like give away all of your knowledge to me? Like, and like, no, that's not what it is at all.
I know. I always get so weird where I'm like, what? Literally, a woman in our church came up to me a couple of weeks ago and she's like, hey, would you consider meeting with me or helping me find someone to meet with? And I had to get weird and be like, I need to know if you're asking me.
Yeah.
Or if you're just saying me first because I'm your gateway drug.
Yeah.
Like, I need to actually know, is this something I'm supposed to pray about and consider?
Right.
Or are you just throwing my name in there because you're being polite?
Right.
And that's such a weird thing to have to ask someone, but that's the only way. And then she said, no, I mean you. And I was like, well, okay, then let's have a real conversation about what that time commitment is and what you want and what you're looking for. And but you're right, Bugs. You have to do these weird like, so did you want us to?
Right. Yeah. And it's like, it is a big commitment. Like you're in basically.
Does it feel big to you?
Well,
it does to me.
I think it's weighty.
Yeah,
like
I agree.
I'm basically giving Harley a front row seat to my life. So she gets to see me at my best and my worst. And I think that's like something that you have to take into consideration before you decide that you want to walk with someone.
Yeah.
So
I don't even know if we've ever talked about this, Books. In my dream scenario, I pray for the girls I disciple every day. I reach out when something pings me. I think you feel, there's an open door to anytime there's a thing, let's talk about it or pray about it. I try to see you at church when we're at church together on Sunday. And then my goal is sitting down every 6 weeks. So those are kind of my things.
Yeah.
I'm going to make some, spoiler, I'm going to make some adjustments next year because I want this to be really, it is really weighty to me.
Right.
And I want it to feel solidified on both sides.
Yeah.
And go, okay, for 2024, let's do this.
Yeah.
What do y'all look like? It does not have to have all those rules in your head. That's partly because of my calendar.
No.
And y'all see each other every day at work.
Right. I know. I think like it's like comparing apples and oranges, honestly.
Okay.
Like
Okay,
me
say
to
that.
you
That's
versus
important.
me to Harley.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is like you and I is like we're like our stage of life, what we're doing, like it doesn't allow us to sit down and get coffee once a week or whatever.
Right.
Whereas Harley and I mean, it's unique in that we are literally like we work together every single day, but then we also meet in addition to that. Everyone makes
Once a
fun of
week?
us because every other week.
Every other week, yeah.
Wow.
But we walk the parking lot at Crosspoint. So everyone's like, "Oh man, we'll see you guys in 2 hours." We're like, "Yeah." you
That's how I
probably
did
will."
all my phone calls.
Right,
When
yes.
I like had to actually do phone calls, I was like, I'll be out in the parking lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everything's better when you're walking.
That's right. That's right.
And like she is she's probably the person here that's the most involved in like my family life. So like she babysits my kids and like she'll come over and hang out with Lad and I, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So, but that's different than the way that you and I look. But I think that it just works for us. Part of it is like because I have 2 kids, like it's really hard for me to do anything outside of work.
Yeah.
So the fact that Harley and I get to meet at work is like
Yes.
awesome.
yeah.
That's modeling such a beautiful thing to our friends listening who are young moms that are
Yeah.
like, okay, well, who's around me?
Right. Yeah.
Like, okay, who could get here easily?
Right.
And
Yeah.
who could, I think that's really brilliant, Bugs. I think that's really smart.
Do you think I described that well?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's like, it so happened that we then started working together
Yes.
after we met.
Oh, right. That's
So
an
it
important
wasn't-
part.
It wasn't
Yeah.
like, oh, you're cool, we're working together. Can you like also, because like we have one-on-ones at work. We have like
Yeah.
boss to, those things. But I think we had kind of established that connection. And then later on down the line, I was like, do you actually want to work on our team? I was like, yeah. So we
Yeah.
do have a special like scenario in that way, but it looks so different. Like I think our lives get to be integrated more because we know what's going on at work and we know these things. But when we meet, it's those things don't matter. Like it's so
Yeah.
different in the way that we lead both of those things.
Right.
So I think we've even had conversations of like, is this like too much together time? But it's not because of the way
Yeah.
we get to steward it well of when we spend time together versus when we're working together.
Yeah, how do you separate that? Because we don't have to separate that because
Yeah.
talking about work is
Right.
part of what we do.
Right.
I think it's separate, but it's also not.
But it's like almost easier to. There's a lot, like we said, like there's not a lot I have to explain. It's like we're doing a lot of living together.
You're like, that
It's
10
like,
o'clock meeting today.
Right. Yeah. You're like, I saw the way that you interacted with that person.
Right.
Like, how you doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of like those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, it's like, I think there's opportunity for both of us. Like, if I'm sitting in a meeting with Harley, like, I'm carrying a responsibility of like, I want to like make sure that I'm leading her well, even though like in that moment we're not having a discipleship meeting, and vice versa. It's like she's allowed me the permission to be like, why'd you say it that way? Like, and like kind of hold each other accountable. So I do think that there's some separation in that, like when we're having our one-on-one, we're not just talking about like, hey, what to-dos do you have on your to-do list today?
Right.
As much as it's like, how's your family going? That kind of thing.
Right.
But it's also everything's so integrated.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Which I think is like how it was always meant to be in the way of being able, like when we think of discipleship, of giving away all that you've been given. And I think what we value so much from like discipleship, past relationships we've come from and that we've discussed is like, it's getting to do life with someone. And it's so much, I don't know, a big thing that I've discovered in my life is just the need to feel safe and to be safe, for my life to be safe, my words, my story. And I don't give that away super freely. And so I think it's given opportunity for us to get to, like, there's a lot more trust built because we do so much of life together instead of, we see each other every few weeks, but I haven't actually caught up with you. There's like a lot of catch up we have to do. I feel like when we get to meet, there's a lot of, we just get to do because we've lived the life together. So I think it takes the weight off of someone not truly knowing you, but then it also makes it easier as we meet, I think.
Becca, an interesting thing for you is Nancy, who disciples me, married with kids. Me, not married yet, no kids. You, married with kids. Harley, not married.
No.
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. No kids.
No kids.
Not yet. Not if you want him. And so it's an interesting spot because the cultural understanding is, of course, a married woman can disciple an unmarried woman because the cultural understanding, I'm not saying this is true. The cultural understanding is, well, she will want to be, and therefore it makes sense.
Yeah.
But you have been in agreement with the idea that the person who disciples you is not married.
Yeah.
But the person who disciples me is. Talk to me about, just talk to our friends that are married about what it's like. It will not hurt my feelings for you to be discipled by someone who is not married, doesn't have kids. So I can't really tell you how to fix things with Lad based on my experience.
Yeah.
Not that things are broken with your husband, but just in any, you know, like talk a little bit about being discipled by someone who's in a different life place than you.
Yeah. Well, to be totally honest, like I've never been discipled by someone that's married. So,
interesting.
like even at
right.
Wesley, I mean, even when I was married, my discipler was single.
Yeah.
But I think that to me, my marriage is a huge part of my life. It is not my entire life.
Yes.
And so I think a lot of the stuff that I'm able to talk to you about, sometimes it involves Lad, but most of the time it doesn't need to. And I think like to your like board reference, like I have people on my board that are spiritual parents to me that care for my marriage differently than you care for my marriage, but that doesn't, one's not better than the other. You know what I mean?
That's really helpful.
So and I can't ask you to carry like every single issue I have going on in my life, you know, like that's impossible for any one person to do. But I think also like thinking about your role in my life, like I didn't know that I needed that when you came into my life, coming into ministry, like you've been able to call out, one, you've carried the mantle of women in leadership in ministry for me for a long time, but also for our church. And so I didn't know that I needed someone to be like, hey, help me carry this mantle. Even though I was like, someone carry that mantle, you know?
Someone hold that with Annie. And I'm like, Bugs, hold
it's
this
you.
with me.
Yeah. So I think like you've really helped me understand like what I have to bring to the table in ministry and in life. But yeah, I think that it's not even a consideration for me because I'm like, you love Jesus and I've been given access to your life outside of this.
Yes.
And I trust your relationship with the Lord. So I don't care if you're married or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered that the most eloquently, but
one of the sentences that you said that I think is so important is no one can hold your whole life.
Right.
I mean, that is why we're doing this. That's Al Andrews in the first episode of this series was like, we are lonely because we're expecting one or two people to sit in 8 seats.
Right.
Right. And so if you expected me, or if Harley expected me to hold your whole story, it would be impossible. I would never be able to do that for you.
Right.
But there are pieces I love holding. I would try. I want to try. Anytime you have another thing for me to hold, I want to. But I think that's so much wisdom of, no, there's a couple of people that are meeting my needs spiritually, emotionally, relationally that speak into this. I think that helps a ton.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Hey friends, just interrupting this conversation one more time to share about another amazing partner, Thrive Cosmetics. So whether you watch all the Get Ready With Me videos on TikTok to find your new favorite makeup products, or you just want to know the easiest and best options without having to look around, Thrive Cosmetics is the way to go. Y'all know the turquoise tube of mascara you've seen all over your socials. Well, I love it. And you have heard me talk about it. Their liquid lash extensions mascara not only makes my lashes look longer and fuller, but it lasts all day without smudging or flaking. Y'all, I am such a fan. Here's what I love as well. Thrive Cosmetics beauty products are certified 100% vegan and cruelty-free. They're made with clean, skin-loving ingredients, high performance and trademark formulas, and uncompromising standards. Go give their mascara a try or check out some of their other fun options like their Brilliant Eye Brightener, which is a highlighting stick, or their new impactful semi-permanent smoothing lipstick. Y'all know I love a lipstick. If you're tired of the same old makeup or if you want to try the product that thousands are raving about, now is the time. Thrive Cosmetics is luxury beauty that gives back. Right now, you can get an exclusive 20% off your first order at thrivecosmetics.com/TSF. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/TSF for 20% off your first order. That link and pretty much every other link you could ever long for are in the show notes, or we send them to you on Fridays in our Friday AFD Week in Review email. So you can sign up to get that in the show notes below as well. And now back to finish up this fun conversation with Becca and Harley.
That sounds fun.
Harley, what do you, this is not pressure. Let me start by, what's your Enneagram number, by the way?
Just embrace it.
I would say an 8.
Oh, yes, my girl. Let's roll. Okay, then I retract no pressure because I'm like, you don't care. You're not going to feel pressure from me. I'm really curious. What do you think about discipling someone? Is that time now? What are you waiting for? That's not, again, that isn't pressure. I'm asking you because I want people to hear there is a right time to just be getting settled and receiving and being grown up. And then there's a time to turn around. So where are you in that process?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. I think when we first started meeting, it was definitely like I said, my transition here was pretty tough. And that was one of the things we connected on, which was a gift. And I was like, I just felt so understood. And so we met
a Wesley, particularly the two Wesleys we're from, is a really culture shock.
Yeah. And just leaving towns that were, you're just so rooted, and you had people that had done so much life with you.
Yes. You can park anywhere in Milledgeville.
That's right.
There's parking everywhere.
That's right. Just
cost of living.
Cost of living. Yeah.
Like your coffee's cheap. All of it. And you just, there'd been, depth of relationship with people where you're coming to a new city, and that's something that we had both desired, these deep spiritual friendships, but I was not in yet. I mean, I had just moved here. And so when I first got here, that was what it was, just transitioning into a life here when we started meeting. And then I would say maybe a little over a year after we started meeting, Becca would start to ask, like, because it was also a prayer of mine, like, I think as you give away to me, like, there's things I have things to give away. Yes. And so I knew that I don't want it just to, like, stop with me. Like, okay, like, tell me all the things, because that's not how we live our life in general as believers. And so all that we were given was meant to be given away. And so I knew it was my desire to disciple someone. But I think a year in, Becca started asking and praying into, like, who that would be, and asking me, hey, do you have anyone in mind, or what, anything like that. And so she would challenge me. And I think that there's probably a few months where she's like, would ask a lot, and I was like, yeah, I know, like, I'm praying about it, or I haven't prayed, or I don't know.
I know I need to,
and I'm ready. And I think it took like a year of being settled and feeling like this was home and feeling at peace in my own life here, to then be like, I don't think we have to have it all to then give it away, but there is that time, like you said, of being able and being willing and just feeling ready. And so I actually do disciple a girl. I lead a small group at Crosspoint, and then there are a few girls that God highlighted to me in my small group, and that was one of the questions.
They're not on staff.
They're not on staff. They're just,
I love it.
In Nashville,
but part of our church.
Yes,
yeah.
And that was one thing I'd ask back. I'm like, how do I know? Like, do I just go and ask, or
especially when you're leading a whole small group?
That's right. And I'm like, well, I already lead them in small groups, so does it have to be someone outside of that? And I think she was just super encouraging of, like, you can look within your realm of people, and God's probably highlighting you someone, or where's the Spirit already leaning in on people, and where's the door already being, like, touched in that way. And so there are a few girls that were highlighted in my small group, and I'd asked God and prayed, and there was one girl, I was like, I think I'm going to ask this one girl. And then the girl I actually currently disciple had reached out right after last Christmas. So we probably started meeting like last January. Or this past January. And so she'd reached out right after Christmas and just wanted to talk one-on-one.
And you're like, oop.
I was like, oh. And she was someone I had in mind. I was like, she was so new in her faith and so new to Nashville. And she really just needed to know, like, hey, I love Jesus, but how do I live this life with him, and what am I doing? And so we sat down and we met, and she was, like, starting asking questions in the conversation, and she just really needed a safe place to process some stuff that had been going on. And in the moment, like, the Spirit was like, no, this is who you need to ask. And I felt the Spirit prompt me to ask her in the moment. And I think there was like relief even on her face as she was like, yes, that's like all I've ever, like, it's just what I need. Like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
So we've been meeting for almost a year, but there
What do
definitely
y'all's rhythms
was,
look like? Every week? Every other week?
We meet every week right now.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's so generous of you.
Yeah.
And
I
her
think-
for both of you to
right.
make space in your
Right.
calendars for each other like that.
Right. And
Sorry, Bugs.
well, it's so seasonally and like, so what does your life need? So it's like what mine and Becca's relationship looks like as we meet is not what hers and I's looks like.
Yeah.
It looks so different because of what she's asking for and what
Yeah.
she needs.
Yeah.
And so,
And I think your personality is
Right.
Like you're just such a social person.
Yes, that you
And
you
I'm
have
introverted. So I'm like, I don't need to meet every week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
right. Right. So, yeah, we meet every week and she is in the small group that I lead. So, like, we have some relationship outside of that. But, yeah, that's what our rhythm has looked like so far.
It's very cool, right? I mean, the three of us are very privileged in that we chose ministries to be a part of in college that taught us this as a lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we probably we're starting the race at mile 5.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus mile 0. So a lot of people have invested in us. We've all been discipled by
Yeah.
other people. We've all discipled other people. It is very cool to think about Nancy down to this girl that you're meeting with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That like gives me goosebumps.
Yeah. I mean, that is
know.
like a 5-generation
Yeah.
investment happening.
Yeah.
Not because of any of us do anything right necessarily, but just the Lord saying, highlight. I mean, that's awesome,
Yeah.
Harley.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's giving gratitude of it is an answered prayer. These aren't just things we happened into.
That's right.
These were things that Becca, I prayed so specifically for, and just coming into agreement with the lifestyle that he asked us to live, but us actually desiring to live that way as well, and to want to give away what we've been given, and to ask for wisdom as we do it. Because even I think I catch myself so much as I lead the Girl I Disciple of God, I just want, like, convict me if I'm using things out of, like, scripture out of context, or we don't get into these relationships I'm not making a mini Harley. She's not making a mini Becca. Like, what I love is that when I go to Becca, I trust that she's pointing me right back to truth and to scripture and to what God has said. And she's asking him first before she's telling me her opinion. But it's like, I can trust what she's saying because I trust her relationship with God. I trust that she carries a spirit. She's being led by the Spirit.
Yeah.
So I think it's being aware of that, of like, we're all being formed, and it's like, I'm not forming this girl. Becca's not forming me from who she is. Lived experience is so helpful, but the ultimate truth is that we'd be followers of Jesus, and so that's what we're going after.
Yeah.
How many right now in a dream world where they were knocking on your door, how many girls do you think you have the bandwidth to meet with? Let's say you met with them every other week. What's your bandwidth, you think, to really love, care, invest?
That's a good question. I think if my priorities were correct and just like prioritizing time, I think there would be, like, to do it really well, to give like all of my energy, I think 2 or 3 girls. Like 2 would probably be a sweet spot. I think there would be capacity for 3, but it would have to be saying yes to some things and no to others.
Yeah.
But I think in college, I think I led like 3 to 4 at a time, which we had like a smaller scale Wesley than you guys did. But I think a lot of it is, what are you saying yes to? What are you saying no to? What's God asking you to say yes to? Like, you get to have fun, enjoy your life, but like, what are you investing your time in? And so I think if it was invested well, like 2 to 3 girls would be a good bandwidth to have.
And Becca, right now, how long ago did you have your second son? 4 weeks?
It'll be 8 tomorrow.
Oh, 8. Okay.
Yes.
8 weeks.
Yeah.
So you have an 8-week-old.
I do.
And a 2-year-old.
Yes.
So I want people to hear your bandwidth is Harley.
Yeah.
And then me every 6 weeks-ish.
Yeah.
Well, 8, because I haven't seen you since you had your baby. So,
We've been busy.
but yeah. So, I mean, I think, am I wrong? Do you have bandwidth for 3?
I don't feel that I do. I mean, the Lord's putting other things on my heart that I think can fall into the discipleship category that aren't meeting one-on-one with a younger girl. And those are things that I'm like currently praying through that I think Josh always talks about like how you just need to bring other people into what you're already doing.
Yeah.
Because my constant thing is I don't have time.
Yeah.
And so I think that Harley, I'm able to bring into what I'm already doing. And so if I had bandwidth, it would have to be a situation like that too.
Yeah.
So
I think it'll be interesting for y'all to hear when Nancy was on. Our friends heard this, but y'all haven't heard it yet. She has a pile of us. But what her life is so different than our lives.
yeah.
And she sees us, much like you and I do, every 6 weeks, every 4 weeks, something like that, but checks in every day, whenever.
Yeah.
But because she works she's in a different season of life. She doesn't have kids at home. She, she is able to do this differently.
Yeah.
And so I think it's so interesting for us as our friends listening to hear like, okay, a young mom having one person that they are able to see and one person being seen by them is a great number.
Right.
You do not have to have 12 disciples.
Right.
Yeah.
Jesus did not like set
Right.
your discipleship precedent like that.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's important for people to hear. I think sometimes there's a pressure of like, well, every person who asks needs to be a yes.
Right.
No, they don't. And you aren't right for everyone. And every discipleship relationship doesn't last for 100 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Or
None of
look
us
the
are still
same.
being discipled by the people who discipled us a decade ago.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that's one of the things I'm thinking of for next year. Becca, Josh, and I have been talking about this of really drawing up kind of like here's what it'll look like, almost so that me and y'all can practice in 24.
Yeah.
What does it look like to do a 12-month contract? Not a contract,
Right.
but here's what we'll do this year. And then we have a blueprint
Yeah.
to hand off to the Harleys that aren't from a Wesley,
Right.
and go,
Right.
here's what you do.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's a
Cool.
start. Here's a
so
blueprint
good.
of what
I
you
love
do
that. Yeah.
in a year. And
Yeah.
then also people aren't committing like, so do I do this for 10 years with
Right.
this person? Am I stuck with this
Right.
person for forever?
Right.
Right.
So I think some of that will be helpful for me, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't work like that.
I think it is helpful too, though, because the goal would be that it would always be ongoing. Like I would
Yes.
hope the girl I disciple will one day disciple someone else. Like
Yes.
there's always this ongoing. I think for people that, I think when I started meeting with her, she'd never had a relationship like that. So for someone like that who has no context, and every relationship and discipleship relationship I had at Wesley or other places has looked so different.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's one blueprint to get it right, but I think if you have a structure, it's so helpful to know even where to start with someone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Do you have to be a certain level of Christian to disciple someone?
no,
Oh, no.
no.
I think, honestly, that's probably the thing that's why I'm currently discipling, is because I was introduced to this when I really first started walking with the Lord.
Yeah.
I think it would be way harder for me to embrace that if I started getting discipled when I moved to Nashville, because I wouldn't know to look for it. And I'd be like, well, I've been doing this by myself for the last 10 years. Why do I need to do that? You know,
Interesting.
I feel like the sooner we can start with like new believers,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you've been given the Holy Spirit, now go give yourself away. People are actually going to embrace it.
I mean,
you know?
Matthew literally said that Jesus said, go and make disciples
Yeah.
and then baptize them.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not get them saved, get them baptized, and then
Right.
put them through a
Right.
system. It
And
was
teach them.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was go disciple them.
Yeah.
And then,
Right.
So I agree with you, Bugs. I think one of I watched a reel yesterday. There was a pastor saying, if you're discipling well, people should be getting saved.
Mm,
And I was like,
it's convicting.
yeah, it's convicting, right? But Bugs, the other situation is everyone I'm discipling is leading on staff at our church. So I have to take that advice from that guy and go, okay, yeah, I want people to be getting saved, but that's not what God's asked me to do in discipleship right now. I need to disciple those of y'all who are leading so that you're discipling the Harleys, so that Harley's discipling the girls
Right.
who are getting saved,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Is that okay that
God, is that okay? I mean, yeah, I would agree with
no
that.
pressure on you, Harley? You don't have to always disciple the
Well, I think it's also just like our jobs, which we are not passionate about discipleship because, or that's not why we're discipling,
Right.
because we're passionate about discipleship.
Right.
It just happens to be that we're talking about our relationship.
I
But
know.
Yeah.
I think about that with our work all the time. It's like, okay, is this devotional? I'm not meeting any of the people that are reading this, but maybe they'll come to know Jesus through it. Like,
Yes.
I don't think we have to live in the box of, are you out on the streets sharing the gospel? Should we be
that's
doing
good.
that? Yes. Do we all need to do that all day, every day? I think that people are gifted in different
Yeah.
things. So,
Yeah. I think it matters, like, we continually develop as we go. And so it matters just as much to have someone walk with you as you love Jesus already and like are figuring out life than when you first started. So I think it's a both and. I think that we need both.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to imagine a day that I don't have someone who's leading me, that's a safe person, that's like I'm walking with, that knows me deep, that is accountable, like holds me accountable. So I think it's both. I think there's always more with Jesus. And so I think as we're secure in our faith, but there's still questions. There's still sanctification. There's still growth. There's still new seasons. And so I think it's both.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay.
Okay, great. Thanks, Harley. Good. I feel better. I'm in. Man, I cannot believe I get to go to a church where y'all are on staff. I feel so lucky. So thank you for what you do. And just who y'all are is such a gift to our church. There are, again, I have 35 minutes with them. You have 7 days with them. And the discipleship role y'all are in at Crosspoint. And it just makes me so happy. So what do we not say about discipleship that you want people to know? Is there anything we didn't say that you've thought about?
I mean, Harley just touched on it. I think that it's the sanctification process is like a huge part of discipleship. At least in the format that like we're currently looking at. Yeah. I mean, going from glory to glory, like I need help because I know that you know the things that we talk about. And if I'm left to my own devices, like it's not good, you know? Right. And so I think that's a huge part. Like you have to be willing to like let someone in and know you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Kevin has said this, that like one of the worst things we can do is think that every thought we have is true.
Yeah.
And so I think if there's not someone to bounce it off of, or like there was a situation we met last week, I was like, Becca, I told everyone I got to ask Becca what she thinks. Like, and not because I trust Becca, but because I trust wisdom that she carries, because she carries the Spirit. And so I think there's always someone that we need to speak into us, to have access to our lives, and us to be willing to listen. Not to take it as Bible truth if we have our own discernment as we walk, but
that's right, because we're not going to do this perfectly,
right?
By any stretch.
No.
No. Me either.
Yeah, so I think that, I just think that it's so important to have a voice that speaks into your life, that's someone that you trust, that's walking with Jesus. And the goal is like, I think Becca makes me better as a follower of Jesus and as a friend, and she sees things in me that I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. Like she makes me more self-aware. And I think it's important as the whole idea of discipleship is, I think I've heard it defined this way, it's like maturity unto Christ-likeness. So we want to be more like Christ, mature in our faith, mature in our walk, more like him as we go. Yeah. And so I think it's whatever that relationship looks like. We don't do it perfect. There's not a right. There probably is a wrong way, but like there's not like you're doing it wrong because you meet every 6 weeks. We're doing it right because, it doesn't like that. But it's like if the ultimate goal is the same, like what does he ask us to do? He's asked us to follow him, to love people. And so I think if we're doing that, then we're on the right track.
Yeah.
That's really good, y'all. The only thing we didn't hit is discipling through trauma, which we have also all done in our context at church in the last year and a half. But I think people know that that's part of it, is you bring your real life and your real self to every relationship, including this one.
Right.
And so I jokingly, I don't know if that's the word I want to use, I jokingly called a lot of last summer triage discipleship, is where you're going like, the pain you're experiencing, where is it in your body? Like, what do we need to do? And so I think there's also times where you have to meet with people out of, are you okay?
Yeah.
And then there are other times where it's long term. And so I think that's interesting to put in people's brains too, that there are times where pain leads to short-term need for meeting more frequently or more focused. So, but we are on this side of that.
Right.
And thank God for it.
Yeah. Praise God.
Yeah. Okay. What do we forget? Anything? Y'all feel good?
The only thing I was thinking, I think in a discipleship relationship, if you're asking that of someone, have level expectations. I think that's like, because I let Harley down all the time. You've let me down, but that doesn't mean that this isn't working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think about that like, you're not God. I'm not God. You know what I mean? Like, I think...
Let them still be human.
Yeah. And like, if they're on a pedestal, take them off before the Lord has to, because it's
Yeah.
way more painful that way.
Yeah, that's right.
Speaking from experience.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really good.
No, that's good.
That's helpful.
And I think I don't see this image of Becca, and it's like that's what I'm aspiring. I think what I love is it's like if I need someone to pray, if I need someone to ask a question, like in the hard and in the good, like she's who I go to.
Yeah.
There's other, and we talked about that. There's other people in my life. Like I have
Yeah.
deeply trusted friends that know a lot of my life that I'm like, hey, I need you to pray for me today.
Yeah.
But she's a safe person that's like, I'm immediately like, she's safe to me. And so it's like I can immediately go to her and
Yeah.
she's going to pray or she's going to speak wisdom or she's going to ask God on my behalf.
Yeah.
She might not know. But yeah, I think there's not the expectation that she's always going to get it right, but there's the expectation that she's always going to be near. She's going to be accessible
Wow.
and she's going to be safe.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I think that is what matters the most to me. Whether she's like, I think you should do this or that, I think it's that she's just there, like present. And that matters most to me.
Oh, you guys, don't you love them? I know. They're amazing. And I loved hearing about who Harley's discipling. And yeah, I just feel real honored to be in this stack of women. So I hope this conversation and Thursday's conversation last week with Nancy kind of helped you figure out what is the next voice that you need when it comes to discipleship. How do you find someone to disciple you, and how do you find someone to invest in as well? So if you want a full list of all the resources from our Build Your Board series, and if you want to get that guidebook so you can go a little bit deeper into this, go to anniefdowns.com/buildyourboard. If you need anything else from me, you know I'm embarrassingly easy to find. Annie F. Downs on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the places you may need me. That's how you can find me. I think that's it for me today, friends. Go out or stay home and do something that sounds fun to you, and I'll do the same. Today, what sounds fun to me is, well, my producer, Johnny, is in New York City with me, and we had bagels for breakfast, and that sounded fun to me. So that wins. Another bagel for me, please. Y'all have a great week. We'll see you back here on Wednesday. We have a special podcast episode with my friends, Seth and Amber Haynes. Y'all are going to love it. So we'll see you guys on Wednesday.